Hey, just a heads up that the following content may be disturbing or triggering for some listeners and is not appropriate for children. Please take care of yourself and others who may be listening with you. Welcome to the Bonus Babies Podcast, a show that has no easy answers, only hard questions.
Gotta do my part of not repeating the same mistakes as, my family or generations before me. I never seen anybody married in my family household, and there were some people just moved in with each other, but I believe that in marriage, get married and have children. That's something that we should do, and I'm glad that I did wait until I found my now husband and I got married with him, and I have my two boys. In a way, I am helping break generational curses. I'm showing them, what it is to have a mom and a dad that, that are there, that care about their education. That's what I never had. I want better for my children.
Can you tell me what you call the kids who you've cared for over the years?
We feel that the children that we receive coming into our home are bonuses. So we call them bonus babies.
I love that. This is your host, Jayne Amelia Larson, and I'm a CASA, a court-appointed special advocate volunteer for youth in foster care. Yeah, I know it's a mouthful. In the same way a CASA works, I explore all things in the foster care maze by talking to kids, parents, caregivers, attorneys, social workers, therapists, really anybody and everybody who will speak to me to keep the conversation open and the information flowing about all things CASA.
Hi there, this is Jake Eberly, the producer of the Bonus Babies podcast. And today, Jayne Amelia speaks with Elizabeth Garcia Herrera. And coincidentally, Liz's sister, America, was our guest last week. Liz and her sister, America, were both placed in the same home when they were placed in foster care. But they both had very different experiences, mostly because of their age difference. But we'll let her tell that story. This is Liz Garcia Herrera.
Hey, I'm here with Elizabeth Herrera. Is it okay if I call you Liz?
Yes, Liz Herrera. Hello.
Okay, hi.
That's
Thank
good.
you for agreeing to be on the podcast. I want to ask you something straight off because I just recorded your sister. Her podcast episode is going to drop just before yours.
Okay.
She must have told you about it. And why did you want to do it?
This was something I haven't heard about. Just having a podcast that talks about like the foster care system or having foster youth just talk about their experiences. And that's sounded a really good opportunity. And I was glad that she shared that she did it. She shared her story. She asked me to do it. I was like, okay.
That's great. I am too. And you guys will actually be my first siblings on the podcast.
Okay.
Yeah. In the very beginning, I have a former foster youth and her social worker, but I have not had two siblings. So it's like you're my first sibling set. It's fantastic.
Yeah. It would be interesting just to see both of our perspectives, I guess.
Yeah, because you're a little bit older, right?
Yes.
Right. So can you tell me, as you remember it, how did you first come into care?
So I was at that time 17 years old, and so it was my younger sister who you spoke with, did the podcast with. She's the youngest of us all, but at the time it was only myself, the oldest, that went into care 17. My younger sister was 13. I have another sister that was 13 at that time. She came into foster care system pregnant, and gave birth at 14 years old. And then my youngest sister, which may have been, I'm sorry, like the years, 9,
Yeah,
10?
yeah. I think she was 9. So how did you end up? Because your mom lost you, right? She lost custody of you. What happened
Yes.
as you remember it?
So at that time, before we went into care, it was mainly just my two younger sisters that were living with her. I would say like I would be kicked out of the house all the time. I wasn't really there in the home.
Right. And Right. If you weren't there, what were you doing? You were like hanging out with friends. You were couch surfing. You had a boyfriend. What did you do?
At that time, I was with my sister, older sister.
Your
So
older sister, right? Okay.
yeah, my older sister lived like in the same neighborhood, but my me and my mom would at that time just bump heads a lot. Every time that I try to come home, we would always end up fighting. She would tell me things of like, you're who are you, like the stepmother of, just when I would say like, hey, why aren't they going to school? We're supposed to go to school,
Oh,
you
really? So
know.
you would come
And
home and say, like, how come this isn't happening for my sisters?
yes,
Wow, really?
yeah,
So you were like essentially parentified, right? And you were acting like a parent.
yeah. And I was like, well, they're like, well, like, who are you, to come and tell me what to do, basically. So we would end up fighting for little things. I don't know. I just felt, I don't know if it's just thinking about it. In a way, we kind of have the same attitude, maybe my mother and I. And so at that time, we already had, maybe like couple months before we ended up being, I guess, detained, taken away from my mother's care. Somebody called the social workers, that's what we know. Somebody called, it could be a neighbor, it could have been maybe like a family friend that called, just saying like my mom was neglecting us, wasn't taking care of us. And at that time, she was really, I would say, maybe depressed, really doing just bad. Was hanging around with friends that were just drinking, like bad influences, I would say. She was just drinking, and there was a time that my older sister and I, we got into an argument with her. And so we also had a brother who was, due to gang violence, was murdered at 19 years old when I was like 12 years old. I feel like my mom never got over that. She got into depression after that, into drinking. I think that's where the neglect probably came from. I feel like she feels guilty for what happened to him. And when we both, my sister and I, were arguing, and just kind of at that time we were just mad, right? Like kind of blaming her, like, well, this happened to us because you weren't taking care of us. So she tried to take pills, and she's like, I'm just gonna kill myself. Like why am I still here? So they called the hospital. They just took her in, and I felt like that also, they seen, that she already had like a report probably against her, an investigation. There was already a case open. We've had previous social workers, just thinking about my life and the social workers. We've always, since I was little, we were always go to court, children's court, and it was because of my older sister. Um, I don't know if I should share like her story. Maybe one day if she would be open to sharing her story. But the stepfather of my two younger sisters, I believe, molested her. Um, that wasn't something that was like talked about. I don't think my mother wanted to say. My sister never like really opened up about it. But we were going to court, and she was placed like, she ran away, and I believe she went to like a group home somewhere else. She wasn't living with us, and she also became pregnant at 14 years old, with her first child. So I'm going into the story,
Yeah. Well,
basically.
yeah. So hang on a second. I want to ask you, I just want to hear, how did it affect you when you lost your brother? I lost my brother when I was about that same age for different reasons, but it just devastated my family. Yeah, we never really recovered. And the people don't think so much about the
Yeah.
kids in the house, they think about the parents. So how did you feel when you lost your brother?
So our brother, that was our only brother. So I have two younger sisters, right? I mentioned. When I was 2 years old, I had a baby sister too, another baby sister that passed away due to SIDS. Not sure. She was maybe around 8 months old, around there. And then I have two older sisters also. So the one that I was living with, and then I have another one that was in Mexico. she was deported. She was born in Mexico, but when she was 15, she was gang affiliated and was in jail for a long time, and then was deported when she got out. And well, she recently passed away in 2021 due to cancer. And so, how it hit us, or me, I guess, I think my sisters were younger, way younger. I don't know if they understood, but I think we all felt it. Just seeing my mom, just seeing my mom was like devastated, crying, like out of control. I felt like I had to be strong. I don't think I let myself feel the emotions. I felt like I have to be strong. Like my mom was showing all the emotions for like all of us. So I felt like, of course, it hurt, but I'm like I don't know. It was something that I don't know that's in me of like I gotta be strong. Like I gotta be strong for my mom because she wasn't doing good, and I was trying to be strong for my sisters. I really saw my mom wasn't there, like in her mind, like focused. So I didn't give myself that time to really feel, to process it.
It sounds like, and you were probably already taking care of your little sisters. You were probably already the mom. And then when that happened, you said, I just got to keep it together. Otherwise, everything's going to completely fall apart.
Yeah.
But then, of course, it did fall apart, right? And then you guys end up in
Yes.
foster care.
Yeah.
Right. So what was that first home like? Because you weren't in it very long, right? And then things turned around for you. So how did it hit you first?
So the situation of us going into the foster care system. So I was only in one home. So I can just only share my experience in that only one home. What ended up happening was that my mom wasn't following through with her requirements of, I believe, maybe taking classes, parenting classes, or doing things to better her parenting skills, which they were seeing. I believe that I know now that I'm in more in the social work field, that they keep a record
Yeah, they do.
of
Yep.
people.
Yep.
So I think that they've seen like we've had cases, and it was more than one time. We've had cases before. So and then just seeing her, I believe like her mental health, she wasn't doing good. That they're like, well, you're not taking your kids to school, you're not being responsible. They did a meeting. I forgot what's it called, where like the school staff were there, social workers, counselors. They made a vote. I remember they made a vote that it was better for us to be detained just so my mom can get basically her life together. They saw like it's too much for you. You're not doing what we're asking you to do. So maybe it's just best so we detain your children and then you get your life together. I felt like it was like, go ahead and get your life together. But just thinking about it, it was like, how are they supporting her? I don't think they were really supporting her. She needed more. I don't think she was ever referred to like mental health services. I think that was like the grief mental health services. She needed that first before she could take care of herself. So luckily, it was three of us, right? My older sisters already not married but living together, have their children. So it was like us minors, right, that were taken away from her care.
Right. And then your younger sister was pregnant and actually had a baby in that home when you're all three
Yes.
living together.
Yeah.
That's unusual, right? That you could stay together under those
Yeah, that
circumstances.
was like luckily, the social worker that we had listened to my mom, and all she requested was like, please keep them together. That's all I asked. Like, please don't separate them. Though I believe like they wanted my sister to be in a place, specifically for pregnant or maybe pregnant teenage moms. They were able to find a home where that they took us all together in the city of Compton. So we went from South Central LA, that's where we're born and raised, to the city of Compton, and in one home. So three of us together. Yeah.
Right, right. And you didn't stay there that long. And then things changed for
Um,
you education wise. So what happened?
yeah. So as we were talking the other time, right, about my story when I went into the foster care system, before then, I was going to a continuation school because I basically dropped out my ninth grade, I guess, of high school. I never went because I wasn't going to go to the school that all my friends were going to. I wasn't living in the same place at that time. Um, just, thinking about it too, like when my brother passed away, we were couch surfing basically, or renting rooms. We were here and there. We were not stable. So when I ended up like wanting to go to school, it wasn't in a good school, and I didn't have any guidance. I ended up just going to a continuation school and with no idea like what am I supposed to do? Like, am I gonna get a GED? Am I gonna get a high school diploma? Like, n- no idea. I remember thinking about my brother too. When I was before I went to middle school, I think that's when I started being bad, hanging out with the wrong crowd. Before that, I used to be an A student, and my brother would be proud of how, I guess, smart I was and into education. Um, I feel like he was the only one that noticed it and shared that he was proud of me, and then anybody else, he wasn't there anymore, and nobody else cared about my education.
Right, nobody cared, so it's almost like it didn't matter because there wasn't anybody validating it.
Yeah, so not until I got into the foster home where the foster agency that we were in provided an educational advocate and, asked me like, what do you want to do basically with your education? And I was like, well, I'm in a continuation school. I'm behind in my credits. I don't think I'm going to graduate. I'm 17 and I was nowhere close to graduating. I'm like, well, I can't go to a high school. And she said, well, if you want to go to a high school, we can get you into a high school. I was like, okay, well, if that's possible, then okay, it's fine. Let's do it. And she was able to get me into a local high school where we were living in and provided me like with the guidance of, okay, you're going to go to high school, but if you want to graduate, get all your credits units, you got to go to an adult school. I went to an adult school, community college to get all my credits.
Wow, wow, so you really did some work,
Yeah.
and she helped you. She helped you figure out what you needed to do. Do you remember her name?
Yes, my educational advocate, her name's Barbara.
Barbara. Thank you, Barbara,
Mhm.
wherever you are.
Yes. So grateful. So grateful for her. I haven't talked to her recently, but I still have her information, and I've shared with her like how grateful I am. I could still reach out to her, have any questions, and she's like, yes, like what do you need? It's always so helpful. Yeah, and thanks thanks to that support where I was able to graduate in 2 years. Although I went into the high school a year behind, I believe that they had placed me, and they kind of held me back. I didn't graduate the year that I supposed to have graduated, but they let me like, okay, go back and finish. As they were seeing that I was like really working hard on getting my credits, I graduated in 2 years. I got all the credits that I needed, and I was also provided with a tutor. Where I remember that supporting me with applying for colleges and asked me like, "What do you want to do?" And I'm like, As I never thought, I never really, I would say like since I was little, I never had like, oh, an aspiration of, oh, I want to be this or that. Not until then where I was like, I want to be a social worker. I want to also support other foster youth. So I went into to the social work field to support foster youth, just the same way that I was supported. I know that made a big impact in my life. I also want to do that.
Right,
Um,
so your experience with social workers was a good experience then when your kids were taken into foster care and you were kept together. You had a good experience with the people who were looking out for you.
yeah, I'm grateful for the foster care agency, how they provided me with all that support for my education. But I didn't stay. Well, I stayed there till I was 19. They did let me stay till I was 19. They saw that I was doing good. I was working in my education, but I didn't really get along with the well, it was a foster mom and her daughter, which I think were the main ones in charge in the house. I didn't really get along with them. I never really felt like I belonged there, but I saw that my two younger sisters had like a closer relationship with them. And so I just well, what happened happened, but I feel like I kind of messed up. But then I was like,
What happened?
I
What
want to get
happened?
out of here. um, I moved in with an ex boyfriend. I'm no
Ah,
longer with the
that's
ex
right.
boyfriend.
The toxic guy, right? The toxic guy.
Yeah,
Everybody
it
has one of
was
those. Don't worry. Just that, or sometimes several. But
it was bad. I feel like I was really like manipulated into moving in with him. Yeah, that's so those toxic type of guys, which I really felt like I was kind of just, I guess maybe like running away of like I just don't want to be in this house, but I wasn't getting kicked out, but I was already an adult, so I couldn't make that decision, like basically just age out.
so, how did you end up at Cal State Long Beach? Because you ended up going to a
Yeah.
4-year school
Yeah.
and like banging it out, right?
So after graduating high school, I didn't apply right away to a 4-year university. I didn't, still have like doubts about myself. I'm like, I don't think I can get into a 4-year university or a UC. So like, I think I'm just gonna go to a community college. I'm gonna take that route. So I did ended up going to Compton College. That was close to where I lived, right? And that's where my ex-boyfriend was going to. So
Uh
maybe that
huh.
also played.
I see. So it was
Oh man,
convenient. You were going to class together, or what?
yeah, but I continued. Oh man, he didn't continue with his education, but I did. I ended up just okay being in community college for 2 years, and I graduated with my associates. I transferred to Cal State Long Beach. That was my dream school because of the CEO of the foster care agency. So he was a professor at Cal State Long Beach. He graduated from there, so I heard a lot of good things. I heard
Right.
that
And
the
he was
social
your
work
mentor.
program was good. Yes.
He helped to guide you, right?
Yeah, so once I knew like okay, I want to go into the social work field, I was like, okay, I think I need, experience with volunteering, and I started volunteering at the foster care agency with the fatherhood program that they had, and just wherever they needed help. I know that we needed like recommendation letters and all that. um, so I did that, and yes, he played a big part. Another thing that he did for us, I was thinking about it the other time. Really sit in and think about like people who made an impact in my life. So we had a social worker that was assigned to us once we were a different social worker, right? We had a social worker before we were in the foster care system, and once we got into the foster home, then in the foster care system, we got a different social worker, and that social worker was not good. Just like bad.
Like how so? We need to hear
Just
it. There's
just
there's
more like very irresponsible and unprofessional. Just the way that she would go into the house, didn't dress very professional. She had taken her daughter with her one time, and I don't think you're supposed to do that.
no, actually, I don't.
Like,
Probably not.
and I was like, and she was just like, oh, like whatever. Not really responsible or following through with things that she would, say that she would do. And then I don't know. I think that she messed with the wrong people. I would say. Well, with the foster care people, I guess they weren't. She wasn't doing what she was supposed to, and they were noticing like she's not very professional. She's not doing what she's supposed to. And we didn't know. Like, well, we don't know what she's supposed to do. It was our first time being in foster care, agency, but then she just started like talking bad about everybody, and then she started talking bad about the foster care agency and the CEO or other social workers, other people when they were doing their job, but she wasn't. So they took, I believe they took her to court. We weren't there, but
Wow.
he did something where I believe what I hear, like it's hard like for social workers to get fired if they're not doing their work. But he the CEO of this company I'm grateful for. I don't know if I should name it.
Right. So even though you witnessed all that, because you had such a good experience with the foster care agency, you knew what a good social worker could be. Again, you
Yes.
dreamed yourself into that.
Yeah, so I've seen that, like I've seen that some social workers, like I shared, like that the one that we had was compassionate, kind, and then I seen like the other side, like didn't care, or maybe she was, I could understand, go into this field, there could be that compassion fatigue,
Yeah, compassion
um,
fatigue. Yeah, they get burned out.
just
Mm.
burnt out, and just ends up not they end up not caring, and I saw that, and she ended up getting fired.
That's a good thing, probably, right?
I mean, it was a good thing because they ended up like just bringing up about like other kids, other families that were also complaining about her. So we weren't the only ones that were being taken care of. And she ended up saying like to me, and she started talking to me like, "I'm gonna take you away from that house, and I'm not gonna take you away from that foster care agency. Like they're bad." And I'm like, "For what? We're not requesting to get out of there just because she didn't." They were really onto her, like, "Hey, you're not doing your job,"
Wow.
and
Wow.
she thought that she could do that, and I'm like, "But why? Why are you gonna take us away from here? And we're not requesting that." Like, yeah, it was crazy.
Right. I want to ask you about the foster family, the mom and the daughter. You had said you didn't really get along with them. You thought your younger sisters did a little bit better. Did you feel that they were kind to you? Were they good to you? Did they treat you well? Did you feel like you were respected? What kind of environment was it?
In a way, honestly, like, I don't know if everybody has like that thought, or maybe that thought was put into my head of like, foster parents just do this to get money, and they don't really care about the children. I never felt like, yeah, like that compassion, kindness, just because I know I have like a strong attitude. More at the time, I think I was a teenager, and yeah, like I'm a teenager, and I think I don't know, maybe I gave attitude, or I I don't know what it was, where I would bump heads with them too, you know, and they didn't like that. Like I felt that we would argue a lot with the foster care sister, and I was like who is she? Like why is she trying to be the boss? Why is she trying to be the boss of everybody?
Right. And was there a man in the house? Was there a dad?
No, well, she lived like in the back house, and she was with somebody, but he wasn't really like in charge of anything. So it was mainly like the mom, her mother, who was a foster mother of the main house, the front
I
house.
see. And
So it
then the
was it was
sister.
her, my two sisters, and there was another girl there too.
Wow, it was like pretty full house, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So then, can you tell me a little bit about uniting families and also Shield for Families? Because you've working for some great organizations. How did that come about, and how do you feel about it?
Yeah, so Families Uniting Families is a foster care agency that we were a part of. So like I shared, I'm very grateful for all the people, the support people that were there, the education advocate, the tutors they provided, the social workers that they provided too. I felt like they did their job, and and of course, like I feel like I had some more favorites than others that were like, yeah, kind, compassionate, and then just the CEO, like I did see him, definitely I do see him like a mentor, just because of I just see how, he advocates, and he just, especially because of that story, like he saw a social worker not doing her job, and he made sure like to speak up for us children too. Something like maybe we may say something or complain, or like, what, whatever. Well, you're not gonna, maybe they expect us just not to like anybody. I didn't feel We didn't feel hurt, but there was somebody that advocated for us. So he was like a role model. Like, oh, okay, he talked about the social work field. So I was like, yeah, I want to go to Cal State Long Beach then, and I had that. I was determined. I'm gonna apply for Cal State Long Beach, and I'm gonna get in, even though in my community college I had a counselor that was like, well, make sure to apply somewhere else because it's hard to get in there, you're not going to get accepted, like she told me that. And I feel like I made my best effort to apply was there, and I got accepted there. And
Yeah,
so I
that's so
went.
good.
Yeah, so the social work program at Cal State Long Beach is awesome. I did ended up getting my bachelor's in social work there, and I completed internships. So my last internship was the longest, was with Shields for Families, where I am working at
Right. So
now.
tell me about them. So what is that? Because that's another support agency, right? But what do they do?
So Shields for Families is a nonprofit organization that offers a lot of services to the community. I think we're very well known in the LA area because we provide parenting classes that are certified core mandated classes, anger management, substance abuse programs, therapy for adults, children, and so I ended up being an intern as a case manager in their children's mental health program, which was a school-based mental health program at the time, and I believe it's different. I was a case manager, and then I applied after I graduated, and I believe because of my experience, I was able to be hired.
Right. And now
um,
you're a
uh,
supervisor. You've been there 8 years. It's like a real career.
yes, I ended up in a different program. Right. So I was a case manager. I ended up being hired as a case manager when I graduated in 2014. In 2015, I was transferred to a home visiting program, which is called Healthy Families America, and is funded by First 5 LA, where we provide services to moms, now prenatal moms. We offer services to moms that are pregnant and moms with babies. The enrollment time is under 3 months, so we provide free home visiting services from when the baby is newborn, basically, and they can be in the program up to 5 years. We provide parent-child activities, child development information, and I ended up being a home visitor, which now is called family support specialist. They changed the title. I've been doing that since 2015. 8 years, and I recently was promoted to supervisor this year in February.
And you're doing all that. And you also fall in love. You get married. You have 2 kids, right?
Yes,
How did that happen? How'd that happen?
that was around the same time, 2015.
Making stuff
Yeah,
happen, Liz. You're making
yeah,
stuff happen. Yeah.
wow, yeah, yeah.
What's your husband like?
So 2015, I met my now husband through a mutual friend. So my friend's best friend and her graduation, my friend's graduation, which she also graduated Cal State Long Beach, then ended up graduating her master's at Azusa, and I met him there. Both of us were single at that time. So thank God, I feel like we met at a perfect time because he had also gotten. So I broke up with that ex boyfriend who I was living with at
Mr.
the time.
Toxic. Yeah. Good. Okay. You got rid of him.
Yeah,
Good.
it wasn't a good relationship. I lived with him and I was with him almost 5 years. I
Wow.
just ended up moving out, and I'm like, no, just, yeah, it was bad, and I thank God that I had like the strength, the courage, just like to move out. Like, why keep dealing with bad relationship? um, and I feel like the time that I met with my husband too, I was single for a time, and single and ready to mingle, right? With the wrong people. It was with the wrong people too. I was like, oh man, just I'm like, what's up with all these guys? They don't know what to do. They don't know what they want. They don't name what they want. It was bad, and I was like, man, I'm done with guys. Like I'm done dating. I'm just gonna focus on myself. And then boom, that's when I met.
Isn't that
Like
funny
that.
how that works? It's like you give it all up and like, I'm done with all that. And then boom, he shows up.
And then I felt like, yeah, I felt like that was like God saying like, okay, now you're ready. You know, you already went through like bad. You already knew like what I didn't want, what I wanted. And I felt with my husband too. When I met him, he had broken up from an 8-year relationship that was also bad, toxic. So when we met and we got together, he started talking about like how serious he was with me. Like and I never saw and never heard a guy be such a gentleman. Like I don't want to play around, but I understand like you need some time. I said like, oh, I don't think I want a boyfriend right now. Although I was really into him at that time. He's like, I'll give you time, but just know that I want something serious. I'm not playing around.
Oh, he played it smart. He played it
Yeah.
smart. Yeah.
Smooth.
Right. And your mom is in your life now again, right? Your mom is.
Yes, she was always in our lives. Though my sisters, they stayed in the foster care system, even though I moved out. They stayed in that same home. They decided to age out just because I believe my mom needed to have her own place, and that wasn't gonna happen. It was hard. I don't think my mom wouldn't have been able. She didn't have the means to do that, to get her own place, to get them back with her. And I believe they communicated that with her, but the foster mom was okay with my mom still seeing my sisters, still visiting them any time. So I think that was a good thing that they let my mom still be around. And why didn't not until with my now husband, before we got married, we moved in together. And I was I I think I was just like, I want to help out my mom. My older sister, she was living with my older sister. I don't know, I think just God put it in my heart to help her out. And told her she wanted to move in with me, and she moved in with me. Then I became pregnant and I had my baby boy, my firstborn. She's helped me with taking care of my baby when I went to work. She has been a big blessing, and I feel like it's been a process, definitely, but it has been God that's been helping us like build our relationship, and especially me, like help me like just forgive, still let it go, let God give it to Him all the time with any time that my emotions come up. I believe it was before my son was born that she started going to church and got baptized. When I was like, whoa, just my mom is changing. Like it reminded me of like, hey, like I need to get back to church. Like my mom is going to church. She never went to church. She had never was interested in that. It was my uncle, her brother, that would invite us, and I would always be interested to go to church as a little girl. And I always had neighbors, always had people like around me that were like, let's go to church. And it was always a Christian church that I would go to, Spanish speaking. I was growing up, and just to see that like transformation in my mom, that like, wow, feel like, wow, like only God can really change, transform. But though it's a process, and I was like, God, if you forgave her, like I can forgive her. Like I can't hold anything against her. And just growing up, being more mature, and like really thinking about everything that she went through as a single mother. Basically, she was most of her life single. My father wasn't involved ever in my life. The father, my two older brother, sister, they had the same father. He was never there that I remember. My oldest sister, her father was like in Mexico, never involved. the only father that was involved was my two younger sisters' father, that I remember him being in our life. And that wasn't a good relationship either. There was domestic violence, and he ended up being deported. So she's been single most of her life. So I don't hold anything against her. Just not anymore. I know that all the time I'll be like, why, responsible. This is what they're telling you to do. Like, why don't you do it? I remember that's how it was when I was little. I didn't see her being responsible and being a mother. That probably like that it brought it out of me. Like, hey, telling my sisters what to do, but then my mom would be like, don't tell them what to do. So I that's why I couldn't stay.
Okay, Liz, so can you talk to me about values? So what values did you have or didn't have when you were little? Did you ever talk about or think about values? And what values do you live by now? Even does the word value mean to you?
So for me, I would say like my values come from my, I don't want to say religion, it's my relationship with God, with Jesus. So growing up, I went to Christian churches. So as a little girl, I feel like I learned of like what it is to have the fear of God, and then it's not like being scared, but it's like the reverence, that the respect, that like, oh, God wants us to do this and not that, right from wrong. I feel I've started, I as I kept going to church, like, hey, one of the big values that I'm so thankful, grateful that I try. Yeah, we're not perfect humans. We're not perfect. But one great value I feel that I wouldn't have learned from from the Bible, from the Word of God, and He wants us to consecrate ourselves, our bodies, to marriage. And that was very important for me to remember when I was a teenager, when all the teenagers around me were already experimenting, having sex, and then a lot of my friends ended up being teenage moms. When everybody was experimenting, I was like, no, God doesn't want me to lose my virginity before I get married. So, so why, if I didn't have that, I feel like if I didn't have that value, or that fear of like, hey, God doesn't want us to sin in that way. He wants us to, to save ourselves till marriage, and that is what I would always have. Although I didn't. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't wait till marriage. Like I said, I moved in. I shared before with you, Jane, that I moved in with boyfriend at 19 years old, that I lived with almost 5 years. So
But that was really just a way to get out of the house that you were in, really. But then you waited
yeah,
to have children with a man who you made a home with.
yes, but in a way, right? I was like, I'm not gonna have children until I'm married. So even if it was like, okay, my virginity, then I was like, wait, I gotta do my part of not repeating the same mistakes as, my family or generations before me. I never seen anybody married in my family household, and there were some people just moved in with each other. And but I believe that, like, in marriage, like, yeah, like, get married and have children. That's something that, like, we should do. And I'm glad that I did wait until I found my now husband, and I got married with him, and I have my two boys. In a way, I am helping break generational curses. I'm showing them, like, what it is to have a mom and a dad that, that are there, that care about their education. That's what I never had. I want better for my children. And that's what
Yay
I'm
on you.
doing.
Yay on you. I just want to go back. I want to ask you, because it sounds like maybe even now, you don't know how unhappy America was in that foster home, that she thinks of it as a terrible place for her. Were you aware of that then, or have
So
you guys talked about it at all now?
so what we ended up not knowing till later, where where she would complain, and there were other foster youth, other foster children, and that I don't think she would get along, and that she wouldn't get along with, and like we could see it, and we would tell her, okay, move out. You can move out. You can request to go somewhere else. And she did ended up going to another home, which we saw like, hey, like it sounds like the mother is responsible and they're taking well care of you. And she ended up going back. We didn't understand, and we would tell her like, you want to come with us, but it kind of seemed like, I don't somehow, like she didn't want to like leave, when we ended up like really noticing like, hey, what's going on. And it was, sometimes she wouldn't share so much. I would say like my two younger sisters, I well, it could be a lot of reasons why they just hold things in and don't really share. And even now I feel like they're very guarded, and they're very like, this is my life, and they really don't share like what's going on in their life. Although, like I said, I feel like God is restoring our family. So I feel like me and my mom, her lives is restoring. My older sisters around, and we try to get them to involved too, but they're still kind of like, I don't know if there's just a guard up. They're still like maybe like forgiving that they need to do that. It's if they don't really share. So if she did share with you whatever her experience was, I know that talking about it, it's a way to heal.
That's the idea. And
Right?
even though it can be very difficult, I'd say actually that you are quite a bit like your sisters. I know this is a big move for you to talk about this, right? On a podcast and with me, essentially a stranger.
Yes.
And you kind of had to really wrap around that to let it happen, right?
Yeah. So it's my first time ever being on a podcast. But I've shared with you, Jane, before, that I'm now a leader in my church, and
Yes,
something
you.
big that they tell us to do is to share our testimony. And that's something that I don't think I've been practicing enough, but I think this is like my testimony. It's my story. It's where did I come from? What have I gone through, and where am I at now? I know people looking at me now, and where I'm working, and I am blessed. I am very blessed. I have my husband, I have my two boys now. I have two boys. I am a homeowner in the city of Norwalk. Like, it's a move up from South Central LA. I don't like to like boast or be conceited, but I am very grateful. I am very grateful for what I have right now. And sometimes we forget, just to be thankful of what we have, and just looking back, like, whoa, like, where did we come from? We come from homelessness. We were homeless at times, with my mother. I never saw myself like in a marriage, in a healthy home, in my own home as a mother. I don't think I ever had like good hopes growing up, like good hopes for my future.
Yeah, you didn't really have any good role modeling, but everything you have now, you've worked for, Liz. You've dreamed it up and worked toward it.
Yeah, though it I didn't dream about it when I was little, like it was small. I felt like it was kind of like a step at a time, make it another day. And just with, I would say, like, it's with God's grace, His help, that that I was able to. So like I shared with you before, like, I once I started really focusing on my education, I was like nonstop in
Yeah, it
school.
was go,
Once
go,
I
go,
started with
go, go, go.
high
Yeah.
school, I did community college. I remember taking summer school, winter break, like winter sessions, to make sure I'm graduating in 4 years. Like, I heard like other people are like taking longer to graduate. Like, no, I gotta graduate in 4 years. And in a way, as a foster youth, I was supported. I never thought, I was like, were you are you supposed to pay for school? Like, I don't have money. Where's my money gonna come from? But as a foster youth or former foster youth, there is financial support, and that financial support, able to get grants. I was able to get scholarships that helped me. It really helped me. I was in like certain programs that supported me also in college.
Mm-hmm. Is that your baby
Uh,
there? Is that one of your kids?
yeah, my baby. I'm sorry.
No, that's all good. It's nice to
Uh,
hear it. Nice to hear it. I want to ask you one other thing that I ask all my guests, and that is, what is the one thing that no one would ever know about you unless you told them?
just the same. Like I said, if somebody gets to know me now and sees me where I'm at, with my job as a leader in my church too, like they would never thought that I was, like a high school dropout. I didn't share also that there was a time that I was just doing drugs, like marijuana, smoking a lot. I don't know, just to name the other things. I don't think I didn't do like the worst drugs, but there were some drugs that were bad that I tried. I didn't really get hooked on too much. I think it was more like I'm just gonna do it just because of the wrong crowd, just trying to suppress whatever feelings I had in a way. Kind of sometimes I think that the drugs may when we think about it, like the drugs may have affected, and I don't want to declare it over myself, like my mind, but my baby is 11 months, and I know they say like, oh, that mom brain. I'm like, what's that mom brain, and I think about it like maybe the drugs affected sometimes like forgetfulness. That's what I've been thinking about right now, but like no, just I'm believing that I'm healed, I'm healthy, my brain is healthy. It didn't affect me. So
I don't think you need to worry about
yeah,
anything.
no.
I don't think you need to worry about. I think you're doing great. Really, I think you're doing great.
and then and then I think I'm still working on being like a public speaker. I guess.
And you're doing great with that too, by the way.
Thank you.
This
I,
podcast, this episode is going to be heard in like 65 countries and counting, and 1,200 cities all over the world, every continent except Antarctica.
wow.
So, yeah, people are going to hear you.
I didn't have, that insecurity about, how I speak till, recently, where I was like, wait, I used to just work one on one with families, right? And then I haven't had any experience with like presenting. And then now, as a supervisor, I'm like, hey, why am I nervous? Like what? It's new. Like I feel like just public speaking and to a group. um but I believe like, either to grow, to get better at those things, like we have to do it. We have to do it. There's no other way to get better at something without practice. So thank you for this opportunity for me to really share my story and practice to continue sharing my story. I hope that this really inspires others to share their story and really look back, and just like my pastor says, like you may not be where you want to be, but thank God that you're not where you used to be. Um, and I am really grateful. I may not be yet. Maybe there's still more in store for me, but I'm very grateful for what I do have now.
And I'm very grateful to hear your story. And I want to thank you for just being brave enough to do it. So thanks.
Thank you, Liz, for sharing your story with us. And congratulations on your family and your 2 boys and everything that it took to get you here. Because without all of that experience, you wouldn't be where you are today. And thank goodness for your mentor. You had guidance, and that got you to a better place. You learned you did want to give back, so you found the right crowd. Thank you for being here. Now, in the next few weeks, we're going to be hearing from more former foster youths, also the people who founded ReadyToSucceed.org, which supports youth through their education and then college years, as well as more foster parents on the front lines of looking after kids in care. So stay tuned and join us next week. Thank you for listening, and be well. If you or someone you know is harming themselves or thinking about harming themselves, go to crisistextline.org. If you see something, say something. If you suspect a child's health or safety is jeopardized in any way by parents or anyone else, contact the Child Protective Services Agency in your county. 24-hour hotlines are staffed by trained social workers who will help you through the process, and you can do so anonymously. In California, you can call the Child Protection Hotline at 800-540-4000. So if you see something, say something. You might be saving a child's life. If you want to know more about becoming a CASA anywhere in the country, go to nationalcasagal.org, and in LA, casala.org. And if you want to know more about becoming a foster parent, check out the National Foster Parent Association at nfponline.org. There's also faithfosterfamilies.org and adoptuskids.org. There's tons of other information online as well, so you can just hunt around. We also want to thank the supremely talented Christina Apostolopoulos for her beautiful original music. You can find her music on Spotify or Instagram at Christina Aposto. And also thank you to Yukon Har for his engineering. Thanks for listening, and if you like what you hear and you find it as valuable as we do, please rate us and hit subscribe. You can also make a donation at bonusbabies.org. See you next time.